In a shocking twist that has rocked royal watchers worldwide, Prince Harry has reportedly filed for divorce from Meghan Markle, following the emergence of controversial DNA results allegedly involving their children, Archie and Lilibet. The rumors, once confined to internet corners, have now ignited full-blown media frenzy. While no official confirmation has been released, insiders point to deepening cracks in the Sussex marriage. Cracks that may have been widened by trust, pressure, and the unbearable weight of royal scrutiny. The shock claim that exploded online. It began like most modern royal scandals do, not in court, not on record, but in the shadows of the internet. Fringe forums and obscure social media accounts began circulating a claim too explosive to ignore, that questions had resurfaced about the biological paternity of Prince Harry and Meghan Markle's two children, Archie and Lilibet. The language was vague, the sources murky, but the headlines were unmistakable. DNA revelation rocks Sussex family. Within 24 hours, the rumor spread like wildfire. Despite no formal statement, no verified reports, and no credible source confirming any such results, the story ignited. Screenshots of alleged documents circulated unchecked. A TikTok account gained over 5 million views speculating about secret DNA tests. Twitter, now X, threads unraveled timelines and birth records. Every corner of the internet seemed to be asking the same thing. Could it be true? Palace insiders, when reached for comment, offered nothing. Total silence. And in that silence, the public found room to imagine the worst. What shocked observers wasn't the nature of the rumor, but how fast it escalated. This was not the first time DNA claims had been made in connection with the Sussexes, but it was the first time such allegations had coincided with real-world legal silence from both camps. "There's something different this time," one royal watcher posted. "No denials, no lawsuits, just a vacuum." Legal analysts weighed in cautiously. "These are extremely serious accusations," said one British media lawyer. "If false, they're defamatory. If true, they have constitutional implications." Suddenly, a speculative whisper became a global conversation. And at the center of it, two children, too young to understand the world they were born into. How DNA allegations became linked to divorce talk. As the DNA rumors surged, a parallel narrative emerged, one that had been quietly building for months. That Harry and Meghan's marriage was no longer solid. Multiple tabloids, already stoking marital strain stories, leapt on the claims with a new hook. That the alleged paternity revelations had triggered a complete breakdown of trust inside the Sussex household. Headlines screamed, "Irreconcilable differences following DNA bombshell," though no court documents ever backed that up. Still, the timeline was suspicious to some. Insiders hinted that Harry had privately raised concerns and may have requested confidential medical confirmation. This, in turn, allegedly led to emotional confrontations behind closed doors. But no source could provide documentation. Everything remained anecdotal. And yet, the speculation hardened into perceived fact. "You don't ask for a DNA test unless the trust is already broken," said one tabloid columnist. The Sussexes' refusal to publicly comment only fed the fire. Their spokesperson issued the briefest of responses. "We do not comment on baseless personal speculation." But the public didn't read it as denial, only deflection. Social media accounts began dissecting old footage, archived interviews, and even past Oprah comments for clues of a divided marriage. Paparazzi photos of Harry walking alone in Montecito resurfaced. Meghan's solo appearances at brand events were reinterpreted. By the week's end, the narrative had snowballed. Was there not just a scandal, but a separation? What was true remained buried, but perception had already taken its toll. the palace's actual position on Archie and Lilibet. As rumors swirled and speculation grew darker, Buckingham Palace maintained its traditional stance: utter silence. Officially, there was no investigation, no inquiry, and certainly no confirmation of DNA tests. On record, Prince Harry remains the legal father of Archie Harrison Mountbatten-Windsor and Princess Lilibet Diana. Their names appear in the official line of succession, clearly defined under UK constitutional law. No challenges to their legitimacy have been filed, no proceedings have been opened. Still, the internet does not wait for courts. Critics pointed to the lack of visual evidence surrounding the children's births, questioning why their arrivals were handled so differently from previous royal births. But insiders familiar with palace protocol were quick to point out that Harry and Meghan's decision to handle things privately was not unprecedented, especially given their departure from working royal duties. The palace has always avoided commenting on conspiracy theories, said one former press secretary. To address them is to validate them. Legally, even if DNA testing had occurred, such information would be sealed. In both the UK and the US, genetic data involving minors is considered highly protected. No party, not even the royal family, could disclose it without consequences. Still, the mere suggestion of a genetic challenge was enough to reopen old wounds. And in the absence of clarity, conspiracy became currency. The origin of the pregnancy and surrogacy rumors. To understand why the DNA claims took such powerful hold, one must return to the earliest days of Meghan's first pregnancy, when whispers began before Archie was even born. From the moment the Duchess of Sussex stepped onto the world stage with a hand on her growing stomach, internet detectives were at work. Every angle was scrutinized. Every public appearance slowed down and analyzed. Online threads speculated about folding baby bumps, missing ultrasound scans, and unusual due date changes. Despite medical confirmations, the conspiracies multiplied. Then came the birth announcements, first for Archie, then Lilibet. In both cases, Meghan and Harry's approach was noticeably private. No hospital steps, no photo calls, no traditional documentation. Their refusal to follow long-held royal birthing traditions left room for misinformation to fester. And critics were ready. From day one, they left space for people to insert their own narrative, said one royal biographer, and the internet took full advantage. Even Meghan's statements, intended to be personal and protective, failed to quiet the storm. "We're choosing to celebrate this privately," she said in 2019. But to her critics, it sounded evasive. Over time, what began as isolated rumors hardened into a full-blown theory that neither child had been carried by Meghan, and that the royal family had agreed to keep it hidden. There was never any proof. But in the digital age, the absence of proof is often taken as confirmation. And now, years later, those same theories have resurfaced with a vengeance. Why DNA claims carry serious legal consequences. Beyond the gossip and the noise lies a sobering legal reality, one that both media outlets and legal experts are increasingly cautious about. DNA claims involving minors are not just rumors, they are potential violations. Under UK and US law, children's genetic privacy is strictly protected. Publishing speculative or false claims about their parentage can lead to serious defamation suits and, in some jurisdictions, child protection inquiries. Suggesting that someone is not the biological parent of their child, especially in print or broadcast, is one of the most dangerous forms of defamation, explained a defamation lawyer in London. Because you're not just attacking character, you're undermining identity. To date, no major media outlet has published or confirmed the alleged DNA results. And that's no accident. Editors are acutely aware of the legal minefield involved and the ethical disaster of getting it wrong. Even mentioning the theory without disclaimers can invite legal trouble. That's why, despite social media's wildfire, traditional journalism has stayed silent. Moreover, if such results did exist, they would require court oversight for public acknowledgement. Royal status doesn't bypass child protection laws. The palace itself cannot release DNA information without consent from both parents and the approval of privacy courts. There is also the deeper emotional cost, what this would do to Archie and Lilibet. Even if such a claim were true, one child psychologist warned, the damage caused by speculation alone can follow a child for life, especially if they grow up seeing their identity questioned by the world. And that, more than titles or succession, is the true tragedy behind the headlines. Harry and Meghan's relationship under extreme pressure. Beneath the polished public image and philanthropic causes, cracks had begun to form. Not suddenly, but slowly. And now, in the shadow of explosive DNA rumors and legal uncertainty, even allies of the Sussexes began to admit what many suspected. Their relationship was under extreme pressure. Years of global scrutiny, estrangement from the royal family, and the emotional toll of living in the public eye had left scars. While Harry had often spoken openly about mental health, few truly understood the weight he carried, especially after stepping back from royal duties in 2020. Every move we make is dissected, every word reinterpreted, Harry once said in an interview. It's not just exhausting, it's dehumanizing. But sources close to the couple revealed that, in recent months, their paths had begun to diverge. Meghan had returned to professional engagements with renewed focus. Brand partnerships, speaking appearances, and development deals, all carefully aligned with her long-term vision. She was moving forward. Harry, meanwhile, had reportedly retreated, spending more time in the UK, attending solo military-related events, and visiting charities tied to his mother's legacy. According to one insider, he wanted to reconnect. She wanted to protect what they built. The mounting pressure didn't break them overnight, but the whispers of betrayal, however unfounded, widened the gap. One royal staffer who once worked with the couple described it this way: "The rumors didn't cause the rift, but they made the silence between them louder." By the time headlines linked the DNA allegations to divorce speculation, the couple had already begun living at times separately. Harry was seen entering their Montecito home only briefly between international trips. Meghan attended events alone. Spokespeople continued to issue no comments. Still, no formal divorce filings were confirmed. No announcements made. But those closest to the situation admitted the relationship, once a beacon of royal defiance and independence, was now deeply strained, perhaps beyond repair. The role of succession anxiety in fueling rumors. To understand why these rumors exploded at this moment, one has to look beyond marriage and into the shadowed structure of monarchy. Succession, the invisible thread that binds every royal headline. Archie and Lilibet, by birthright, are placed in the direct line of succession, currently 6th and 7th behind their father. Their legitimacy, both symbolic and legal, matters, not just for history books, but for the constitutional continuity of the crown. The monarchy, long built on bloodlines and lineage, holds tight to such structures, and in a post-Elizabeth era, with King Charles's health quietly faltering and Prince William preparing for greater leadership, attention has turned to what comes next. Insiders say King Charles had long advocated for a slimmed-down monarchy, fewer working royals, leaner public funding, a streamlined future. But with Harry and Meghan already outside the core royal circle, questions began to swirl. What place did their children hold in this new vision? The resurfacing of the DNA narrative during this period of royal transition is no coincidence. It speaks to a deeper anxiety, not about two children, but about the crown itself. The truth doesn't matter to conspiracy theorists, said one constitutional scholar. What matters is control, and succession is about control. Palace aides have consistently refused to address questions about Archie and Lilibet's position. But behind the scenes, the institution is aware of the dangers. Any doubt about lineage, however unfounded, becomes a liability for the crown's public image. And so, in this vacuum of information, rumors take root. Because the line of succession is not just a chart, it's the foundation of monarchy. And in uncertain times, even the suggestion of disruption sets fire to the system. Media ethics and the line between reporting and harm. The DNA rumors exposed more than personal pain. They exposed a troubling shift in the media ecosystem, where virality now outpaces verification, and headlines often matter more than human impact. Major news outlets, BBC, CNN, The Times, refused to touch the claims, not because the story lacked interest, but because it lacked evidence. And ethics. These aren't just rumors, said a former editor at The Guardian. They're attacks on the identity of two innocent children. Still, social media told a different story. Videos with speculative captions racked up tens of millions of views. Threads dissected facial similarities between the children and various royal relatives. Some even went so far as to circulate AI-generated evidence. It became a digital feeding frenzy, and no platform intervened in time. Even so-called independent commentators profited. YouTubers, bloggers, and influencers monetized every new leak, every pixel of analysis, all under the guise of truth-seeking. It's become an economy of harm, said one media critic. Royal children are now content. The palace, but for its part, remained silent, adhering to its long-standing rule of not dignifying conspiracies with rebuttals. But many began to question whether silence, in the digital age, was enough. Lawyers warned that the line between free speech and defamation had been crossed repeatedly. Child welfare advocates issued statements urging media restraint. But the damage, psychological, reputational, emotional, was already rippling outward. The question wasn't just whether the rumors were false, it was whether the price of chasing clicks had become too high. What would actually happen if such claims were true? Amid the noise, the outrage, and the relentless speculation, one critical detail has been widely misunderstood. What would actually happen if such claims were true? The answer is not scandal. It is not tabloid chaos. And it is certainly not a palace spectacle. It would be legal, private, and profoundly human. First and foremost, parentage under UK law is legal, not biological. Prince Harry's name appears on the official birth certificates of both Archie and Lilibet. That alone establishes him as their lawful father. DNA, in this context, does not automatically override legal parenthood. To challenge that status, a formal court application would need to be filed, something neither Harry nor Meghan has done. Without such a filing, no authority has the right to investigate, speculate, or intervene. Even if a challenge were raised, the process would unfold behind closed doors. Family courts in both the UK and the United States operate under strict confidentiality when minors are involved. Judges routinely issue reporting restrictions to protect children from media exposure. In plain terms, the public would never be entitled to the details. Any verified DNA information would be sealed. Any leak from a doctor, lawyer, or institution would constitute a serious criminal and civil offense. Media outlets that published such material could face massive legal consequences, including injunctions, fines, and defamation lawsuits. This is precisely why reputable news organizations have refused to touch the claims. Succession, too, is often misunderstood. The line of succession is governed by law and legitimacy, not rumor. Unless a court formally altered legal parentage, an extraordinarily rare and traumatic step, Archie and Lilibet's status would remain unchanged. No such action has been taken. No such challenge exists. But while the legal framework is firm, the emotional consequences are far more fragile. Child psychologists warn that persistent public questioning of a child's identity can cause long-term psychological harm. Even if the rumors are false, and there is no evidence they are true, the impact of seeing one's name debated online can leave lasting scars. It's not about titles, one specialist explained. It's about belonging. Children need to feel secure in who they are and where they come from. When that's publicly questioned, it can fracture their sense of self. That is the real danger here. Not constitutional collapse, not royal embarrassment, but emotional damage to two children who did not choose their circumstances. This is not a political drama. It is not a courtroom thriller. It is not a game of power or legacy. It is a family, imperfect, under pressure, and painfully human. And yet, the internet often forgets that distinction. Because speculation is easy, compassion is harder. And when rumor is treated as entertainment, it is not institutions that suffer most. It is children. Children who deserve privacy. Children who deserve protection. Children who deserve to grow up without their identities turned into clickbait. And that reality, far more than any imagined scandal, is what makes these claims so serious and so deeply troubling. The real story behind the headlines. After weeks of breathless speculation, global trending hashtags, and a swirl of digital hysteria, what remained was not revelation, but silence. No verified DNA results had been released. No divorce filings had been registered in court. No official comment had come from the palace. And yet, the noise, relentless and invasive, had already done its damage. What began as a murmur on fringe forums erupted into a media storm that pulled millions into its orbit. Headlines screamed betrayal. Videos amassed views by the millions. Threads connected timelines that didn't exist. Lives were reduced to theories. And children became the center of adult chaos. Inside Montecito, the gates remained closed. Harry and Meghan, once global fixtures, withdrew. No interviews, no denials, just silence. Whether that silence was strength, heartbreak, or exhaustion, no one knew. What the world had witnessed was not a revelation of truth. It was a case study in how far rumor can travel when it wears the costume of what if. It wasn't journalism, it was theater, and the cost was real. Because behind those headlines were not just royals. They were a mother and father, a little boy, a little girl. Private figures in public skin pulled into a narrative they didn't ask for. A fractured royal family, already walking the tightrope of distance and duty, was now cast under a new shadow. One born not of scandal, but of suggestion. And the question that echoed in more thoughtful corners of the media wasn't, are the rumors true? It was, how did we get here again? What made this moment so dangerous wasn't just the speculation. It was the hunger for it. The speed, the cruelty masked as curiosity. This wasn't about DNA. It was never about titles, succession, or constitutional crises. It was about something deeper and darker. It was about how easily families can become fuel, how private pain can be turned into profit, how the line between reporting and violation has thinned to a thread. One veteran royal correspondent put it plainly, "We've stopped asking what's true. We've started asking what trends." And in the middle of it all, Archie and Lilibet, children born into legacy, not by choice, had become digital characters in a story that may follow them for years. Some watching wept for them, some looked away, and some, even now, keep clicking. But as the frenzy dies down and the algorithms move on, one truth, simple, devastating, lingers. There were no winners here, only people. Some grieving what was lost. Some clinging to what remains. Some too young to understand why their names became hashtags in a world that promised to protect them. Because in the end, when the echo fades and the screens go dark, in the absence of fact, fiction flourishes. But it does not heal. And this time, it hurt more than just a crown. It hurt a family. As the world speculates, no verified DNA results or court filings have been confirmed. What remains is a family under fire, 2 children at the center of a storm, and a fractured marriage facing the ultimate test. Behind the headlines is a deeper truth. Some wounds fiction creates, reality must carry.